Hello everybody, it's Lucy Wolf here, sleep consultant and author of the Baby Sleep Solution. I hope you're really well today. As you know, yesterday I did a couple of videos on naps because I had so many questions on my little post asking you for some of your queries, and I just thought today that I might just pick out a few of the questions that also came in on the feed specific and try and answer them as well. So the first one that's come up in my little feed here is from someone who's got their 5-month-old who's just starting to nap in the cot. They're following my timings and they are actually beginning to self-soothe, however waking still 30 minutes, and now this parent is rocking them back to sleep. Now, because this baby is under 6 months of age, I actually think that's a good idea if your child is willing to be rocked back to sleep. The only hesitancy that I would have around that is that sometimes then your child has an association with, can put themselves to sleep, but then has an expectation to be rocked back to sleep mid-sleep cycle. Now again, like I said, because this baby is under 6 months of age, I actually think that's okay, because I think it's part of helping them stitch their sleep together. And maybe 40 to 50% of the time, if with more time, the baby would actually start to sleep longer without that intervention. But then the other 40 to 50% of the time, what we could start to see is just always routinely waking and always wanting to be rocked back to sleep. And I guess, yes, I do propose that naps will lengthen in time, but in order for naps to lengthen, certain criteria almost needs to be met. So what's that criteria? We've talked about it here a little bit already before, and obviously it's laid out in my book. I think the timing of the nap is really important once your child is over 6 months of age specifically. And then, of course, how they achieve sleep. And then once they've been achieving their sleep and you've been using the stay and support approach, and maybe over the course of, let's say, the first 10, maybe 14 days, your naps are quite easy to achieve. You're moving yourself through the stages, but they're still waking up after 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And after that length of time of your plan, I would normally do some mid-nap work, and that means that you go back into stage 1. If either maybe nap 1 or nap 2 is under 45 minutes, I might put you back to stage 1, and I might spend half an hour trying to resettle your baby. And when we do this approach, I try to get you to do it for 7 days in a row as needed, so that we can actually see if it works or not for you. So it works in one of two ways or not at all. So the one of two ways would be, obviously, you try to resettle them and they go to sleep. And even if they only go back to sleep for 10 minutes, that's actually success. And then as the days go by, that would probably improve. And as more days go by, I find that you don't need to resettle them back. The nap just gets longer. So obviously that's an obvious measure of success. But then there is another measure of success for me, and this is why we get you to do it over the course of 7 days. And it works like this. You try to resettle your baby, but they never really return to sleep for you. But after a few days, the nap just lengthens on its own. So almost like the effort of trying to resettle them, even though it didn't work in the moment, actually gives you a yield. So again, I do encourage you to do that, but I would only do it once you've been working on your plan for maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, because a lot of the time, can't really give you a statistic on this, but I probably could if I thought about it. A lot of the time, if you're working on all of the parameters and you're improving your bedtime, you're improving your overnight, and you're addressing your daytime sleep, well then a lot of the time the naps just start to get longer of their own accord, and then obviously no intervention is required. But if it is required, then that's what we tend to do. So I hope that's helpful. I'm just going to scoot along here and find another little question. So there's a question here for someone to say how to stop a baby from napping on you. Our girl self-settles at bedtime brilliantly, but it's never for naps and only falls asleep on us and wakes immediately if we put her down. I don't know how old that baby is according to this little question, but you'll know from previous posts that lots of children have that high need to be held during the day, and I know just this morning I've got a few DMs from new mums who are worried that their babies are sleeping on them. And although I'm saying to you, you that's correct and lean into it, you obviously need to keep your wits about you. You know, it's not a good idea to fall asleep holding your baby. Lots of risk factors involved there. But my point would be that if your child feels like they need to be held to sleep in those early weeks, months, then I actually think that you you need to lean into that. However, in this particular instance, you're describing your little girl as being great at self-settling at bedtime. So I do feel that once the skill is becoming established at bedtime, then I think that it can start to be phased into the day as well. And I obviously would concentrate on nap 1 and then potentially nap 2 with the same sort of approach. So the only difference is in the early months, you won't necessarily have a feed next to the nap the way that you do at bedtime. So then that's really then a case of using your, your pre-sleep ritual, your environment, the things that you do, the things that you say to help to your baby send the right message that it's time for sleep. Now, just on a point of that, because I saw some interactions on my feed between a couple of mums, and obviously I love the way you support each other, because I can't answer all of the questions, obviously, but I love the way that lots of you chime in with the bits that you've picked up or the bits that have worked for you. And one of you was struggling with reading the sleep cues, or nothing seemed to work for you, and one of you mums said, look, you just worked up every 90 minutes, and I think that can be good. But I wanted to point out, and I couldn't find it this morning then, is that even sometimes 90 minutes is too long at the start of the day. So in the beginning, in the first couple of months when your baby gets up in the morning, a lot of them need to go back to sleep within about an hour to an hour and 15. So again, it's trying to maybe get them before they're overtired. That is the key part in the beginning when you are trying to work on improving your child's sleep, that you get to them before they become overtired. And again, one of you said, look, after 20 weeks you've discovered that if you've seen a sign, it's too far gone. And you're absolutely right, and I'm always saying this: intense eye rubbing, big type yawning, agitation, clenching fists, arching the limbs, or arching the back, stretching the limbs, anything that's obvious is actually too far gone. You're looking for really minor brief eye rub, brief yawn, if at all. And again, this particular mom described the eyebrows turning red, and I often talk about that, eyebrows turning red, and red rims around the eyes. They're all symptoms that are too far gone. And again, if you are only ever seeing late cues, then maybe it's worth keeping a little diary, and then maybe going 10 minutes sooner before you see those cues. And again, it will be in that short period of time. So whilst within 2 hours is key, once your baby, as the day unfolds, very often the start of the day, it's a small awake period. So I hope that's helpful to you. And look, I'll pick through a couple of these as this week unfolds, because I kind of felt I was going to dedicate this week to naps, although you'll probably get sick of me talking about them and want to hear about something else. But look, in the meantime, the 3 videos yesterday, there's loads of information in them. Probably should post them in a different order, but anyway, the longer one is the very start, and then the second one and the smaller one is the end. Such great information in there for you, which hopefully will help. And of course, all of my information is in the book The Baby Sleep Solution, and on my website too, sleepmatters.ie.